this, I'm joined by the MP behind the report, the NDP's Peter Stoffer. He's with me in studio. Good to see you, Peter.
Sir.
And to respond, one of the newly minted Conservative senators, who Mr. Stoffer specifically mentions in the report, Senator Mike Duffy. He is in Charlottetown and looking very spiffy. Nice to see you, Senator.
I'm off to the RCMP mess dinner here, Evan. I wouldn't want to make you think that every night in Charlottetown we all dress for dinner. We do a lot, but not every night.
Not the penguin suit every night. Now, Peter Stoffer, give me a breakdown of what you found in this report.
Well, it's for public information. We find that some of the expenses that some of the senators have claimed for the work being done, we find it just a little over the top in terms of highness. But also in terms of the report was the fact that the Prime Minister of Canada in opposition said that he wouldn't be appointing people that he done. There yesterday marked the one-year anniversary of the Prime Minister. By the way, Mr. Harper appointed more senators in 1 year than any other Prime Minister in the history of the country. The husband of a cabinet minister, fundraisers, defeated members of Parliament. This was something that the Conservatives themselves said they would never do, and I remember very clearly when the Reformed Conservative Party stood in front of the Senate years ago with the mariachi Mexican-style thing, complaining about the expenses in the Senate at that time.
But what expenses did you find? I mean, we know that it's not breaking news that there's been appointed senators. What's the report say about the expenses?
Well, some of them quite high. For example, the one individual that served, I think, very, very little time within the Senate, and you look at the expenses and everything that caused on him. And it just goes on and on. Some of the work that they say have been done, and we look at it this way, that some of the work that the Senate done, you don't need to be a senator to do this type of work. We have many, many people in the country that can do that type of work without having to be a burden on the Canadian taxpayer.
All right, Senator Duffy, respond to this. I mean, Mr. Stoffer points out, you know, Conservative Norman Atkins resigned in June and charged $7,000 per day for the 26 days he attended. What do you say to these numbers?
Well, first of all, Norman Atkins wasn't a conservative. He was a progressive conservative. He wasn't part of the government caucus. But there's not a single number Peter's given there. It's all bafflegab. It's just a diversion to try and take the public's attention away from the by-elections that are coming up on Monday, in which the NDP, I hope, in Nova Scotia, are going to be trounced because they're fakers. Peter Stoffer, you know, stands up, I'm on the side of the Mounties, I'm on the side of the military, and then he votes against them every time out. I mean, this guy should be getting a Hollywood award for acting, because that's what he is. He's an actor. He's a very amiable fake. Now, expenses. Peter Stoffer's expenses in the last year were, I got him here somewhere, $128,000, if my numbers are correct, $128,000.57. If you annualize my quarter of expenses that have come out, we're almost identical. And is he saying that every dollar that I spent was not worthwhile reaching out to Canadians?
All right.
And yet his were? So well, let's put some balance and some fairness. There are all kinds of senators who had much bigger numbers than I did, incumbent Liberals who most Canadians have never heard of, who are fantastically more expensive than I was.
Okay,
but I take them
Peter
like
Stoffer
Romeo Dallaire.
Well, let me just give him a chance to respond. Just a second. Why did you specifically mention Senator Duffy in your report?
We also mentioned Liberals as well. We picked up.
We could
have named every single one of them. We mentioned other members of Parliament from both of the Liberals and the Conservative Party.
It's a scam.
Okay, let me just let you know the rules of the game here, Senator, for God's sakes, and nobody knows this better than you. Just give Mr. Stoffer a chance to respond to that. He said these are fake numbers and it's used just some smoke for the by-election. What's the number? What's the number you can defend?
Well, the reality is, Mr. Duffy, if you wish, sir, a good maritimer, sir, allows one person to speak and the other should listen. So I'll speak, and then you can listen if you wish.
You had the first 5 minutes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Stoffer, and then we'll get back to you in a second. Senator, go ahead.
Mr. Duffy, you accused me about my expenses, and my expenses are for the public record. But, sir, I got elected. I have to respond to 91,000 constituents in my riding. You were appointed by a person that said they would never appoint senators into the Senate or people into the Senate. And you know that as well as I do. You covered the Senate for many, many years, Mr. Duffy.
Well, what's the number? He asked you for numbers. Yeah. What's the number that you're putting forward that may show Canadians, as you allege, that there's overspending here?
Well, for example, if I don't have the report in my hand right now, but I will send it to you. The reality is, if you take 27 new senators And added over 20 years, that's $177 million payable to the Canadian taxpayer. That's what that was from a government and a prime minister that said they would never do that. Then you add their expenses on top of that over the years. It's quite a number. From a government that said they would never do it. That's the part, because the Conservatives feasted on Liberals for appointing their friends to the Senate, and this is what we're adding about. The reality is Harper said he would never do it.
All right, Senator Duffy, your response.
It's a con job. The Canadian press used to be reliable. The numbers come from the public accounts that were tabled yesterday. Did they point out in any kind of balance other new senators who had higher numbers than me? No. They only singled me out. Why was that? Is there an agenda at work here? I suspect so. And as for my expenses, they're virtually identical to Peter Stoffer's. And what he's saying is my work on behalf of Canadians isn't as good as his. And I'd put my record up against his any day, and we'll see on Monday in Nova Scotia who Nova Scotians believe.
Ms. Stoffer?
I'm not sure why Mr. Duffy would root to election, because there's also an election in New Westminster and two in Quebec. The reality
Absolutely,
is,
but
Mr. Duffy, I always thought you had a much thicker sin than that, but obviously I was wrong.
Well, it's in the riding next to yours, Peter, and I'm going to tell the people in that area that you're a faker. And we both know it.
Mr. Duffy, you can say whatever you wish, sir, but the facts are the facts. The Conservative Party of Canada said they would never appoint people to the Senate. You were appointed along with 26 other people, the husband of a cabinet minister, fundraisers, and failed members of Parliament. That's unacceptable
but
to
Mr.
the Canadian
Stoffer,
taxpayer.
I just want to get... Yeah. You say that Senator Duffy spent $44,000 in travel expenses despite sitting for just 3 months. He says those expenses are in line with others. Give some perspective here. Is that an undue amount? Why did you point those out?
What are we saying? That if Mr. Duffy can spend $44,000 and others are doing that, it's okay? These are expenses from the Canadian taxpayer, and you've got to ask, did we get value for the work that we've done?
Well, Mr. Duffy, can you justify that?
On a per annum basis, it's the same as Peter Stoffer's. We have a Senate. The Constitution hasn't been changed. The Liberals have blocked our attempts at Senate reform. The fact of the matter is that my time as a parliamentarian listening to Canadians is just as valuable as Peter Stoffer, who's a backbencher, who's a faker, who pretends to side with the military in his riding and then votes against them at every turn. You know, this is a joke, and it used to be in the old days of the media. The Canadian press would spot it for what it is.
All right, I got to wrap it up, but Ms. Stoffer, I'll give each of you a last word here. Are you targeting specifically Conservative senators or also Liberal senators, or all the work in the Senate?
Both Liberal and Conservative members, both.
You're targeting both. And Mr. Duffy, do you feel that you've been unfairly singled out? I mean, the Liberal senators are also doing work.
It's a stunt. The CP story is all about Mike Duffy. It's a stunt, and it's designed to try and sway voters in the by-elections next Monday. And they're too smart to be taken in by this kind of fakery. All
right, Peter Stoffer, Senator Mike Duffy, I want to thank both of you for coming on today and having this one out.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And indeed, they do have it out. Coming right up, the United